What's up guys, I'm back with another video, and today I wanted to talk about my solo queue experience as a fill player. I started off in gold and made my way up to Ascendant. Within the last 2 weeks of this act, which ends tomorrow, I kind of want to share some of the dynamics and experiences I've had to hopefully help some of you who are struggling in solo queue. I probably have already put the timestamps in the video to talk about what you should do in game, what you should do outside the game, and kind of some little techs that I've picked up along the way that really will elevate your game if you're stuck in like gold or plat and need help reaching that next rank. To start off, I'm pretty shocked to see how little people play Initiator and Sentinel. I think Initiator usually has pretty good util, like pretty busted util in my opinion. I mostly play Deadlock, but based on my stats, I didn't really get to play as much Deadlock as I did Gecko, or like Initiator role basically. And people are usually insta-locking duelists. You're guaranteed to see like a Jet every match. And Controller is pretty frequently first pick too. People like to play Clove, which is understandable. She's really good. 1vx, can control space, sustains herself, has a res. Just Controller in general is pretty good, and they're usually the last ones out of an entry, and they're also first to defend and slow down a team from across the map. You know, I thought Initiator would be more popular as their util can, you know, slow down a push, help engage, and it's pretty hard entry used most of the time, or good for getting recon. If you haven't grinded a game solo queue before, I will say there are some things you should do outside the game before you really step into the solo queue experience. First is having a clear mental. Sometimes touching some grass, getting a nice walk in or some exercise, taking care of yourself before you queue up a ranked session is very important. I think it'll help a lot more than you'd expect and gets your brain activated. Also, having a second ranked game, I know it sounds crazy to add onto the solo queue experience, but having like something to fall back onto or switch between helped me a lot. I hit my peak in Apex as well, grinding ranked. I hit Diamond recently around the same time I hit Ascendant. When I felt bad on one game, I'd switch to the other and I'd have a pretty good day on that game. And it kind of would flip-flop. It was very rarely ever I was having a bad game on both games on the same day. At that point, I would just go outside and, you know, come back a different day. Which leads me into my next point is quality over quantity for matches. For me, I did have to stretch more quantity into my matches, but having that strong mental background really helped me get through the solo queue experience, which I will say playing more ranked will build you more resilience to the types of situations you'll encounter, like having a team of no commerce, having that guy who's just not having a good game, or even having toxic teammates. Learning to use the mute buttons. People more often than not, which surprised me, used voice chat mute only, and they would keep text chat and pings on because I guess they preferred getting their comms that way instead of having to deal with the risk of having bad synergy or like toxic scenario happen, you know, on the mic. Hearing, you know, someone tell you your shit in the middle of a clutch definitely isn't going to help you. So I think it's a good way to deal with it and still not, you know, you're not like throwing the game or no calming. It's infinitely better in my opinion than no calming. Unless you're a demon, you can no calm all you want if you're a demon, but if you're a no calmer, you should be hyper aware of what's going on. You should be knowing what's happening around you, or else you're kind of cooked. Another outside the game thing that you should be using is trackers. Tracker.gg is a good place to see where your skill level is at. Valorant has MMR, and you can kind of see based on how much RP you gain when you win and how much RP you lose when you lose. That will kind of give you a indicator of where your rank is. Like if you're losing a lot in plat and you're not really winning a lot, you're probably going to go back down to gold if you keep playing, compared to if you're winning more RP and you're losing a little bit, you're probably going to shoot up pretty fast like I did and skip some ranks. So you probably shouldn't even be in that rank. It's just kind of as part of the reset. Tracker.gg though, I think gives you a clear indicator of this. It's more accurate, and if you're at the part where I am, where I'm kind of gaining and losing the same amount in Ascendant and Diamond, I'd recommend using Tracker to kind of give you a better idea of what you should be doing or improving on, or you know, how your stats are looking, your individual performance. That will help you get a better idea of where your rank really is. For me, my stats, I do have green a green tracker. Like, I have room for improvement, but if I keep playing, I'll climb at a steady pace. I'm kind of getting to where I should be at, which is based on a number of things: your cast, kill, assist, survive, traded, which is very important, which I'll talk about how to improve your cast and like proactive play in the next section. But outside of the game, like, trackers are really good to help you understand the game. The replay system, if you don't really know where you went wrong or you kind of want to double check something, always is a good idea. But yeah, just finding that balance to outside the game really helps your climbing and will take a lot of mental toll off of you. Next, I want to talk about some in-game stuff that will help you, and some tech that might help you get, better, or help you in certain scenarios understand the in-game dynamics a little better if you're in that like gold to plat range and you're trying to break through to that new rank. If you don't already know the types of plays that are commonly ran, I would pay attention to how the enemies play. You're going to come across fast sight hits, defaults, slow play, which is kind of a flexible term I'm kind of throwing in there, and like lurks. A slow play versus default in lurks, I would say, is a slow play is kind of like re-hitting a site or hitting a site and keeping presence but not really fully executing because you're trying to bait util. Lurking is super common, super predictable too. Usually you're going to have the sentinel throw a trip for your team who's going to go 4 to one side of the map, and then you're going to be on the other side looking for space and areas that you can get control of without dying, and maybe get some picks so that they could rotate back, or that you can get a pinch going with your team. That's a common one. And then default is super common and honestly should be the first basis of your starting rounds, which is 2 on one side of the map, 2 on the other side, and 1 in the middle, or kind of just whatever is usually played on the map that kind of gets the most control over the whole map. Not really committing to a site, you're just looking for info. That's most of the time what you're going to run into, and you should just learn how to identify what the enemies are playing. I think 3-1-1 is heavily underutilized. 2 lurks, 1 mid, 1 other site, and then showing presence on the main site is insanely underrated. People don't really do it that often. Another dynamic that is super like easily readable that will improve your game is learning what characters are good on what maps and like why they're picking them. If you're playing Lotus and they pick like Raze Fade or Raze Deadlock, Raze and Deadlock are almost always going to be on the same site throwing nades at a main, because that's just the combos they net you if you run out and you just get killed by Raze nade. Or Fade. It would usually be Fade. I think if you play Deadlock would hold down C, but like Raze Fade is almost always going to be A, and you can kind of get a clear idea of why they're playing that character on that map, because that's just like the meta, or that works well with their character. Any map, Sentinel, attack, you're going to be playing Cypher or Chamber so that you can trip your teammate's flank and go lurking, and it's so predictable, but so many people always die or get picked or don't expect it. If Cypher and Chamber do not show up on the map during a site hit or collecting info, like the stalking phase, you will almost always find them lurk in garage or lurk in some random part of the map that's where their team isn't. Another common thing you're gonna see is if you're playing Fracture and they pick KJ, anytime KJ has ult, they're gonna go under A, and ult under A. It's like almost guaranteed. And if they're smart, they'll have someone watching Arcade so that you don't get control of Arcade and just run and destroy her ultimate underneath the site while they're hitting, or catch KJ off guard and kill her and the ult under the site. Just checking to see what ults they have available and what their options are, so that way you can deny them those, will almost 10 times improve the situations that you will encounter in game. Also, proactive play. If you're like me and you fall asleep on angles, or like you don't really know what to do in certain times of the round, I could tell you, if you're anchoring a site, like you're a sentinel, or maybe you're just a person sitting on B site while your team is rotating, unless they're out on site and they're calling it, sitting, even though it seems like you're doing nothing, sitting there doing nothing is 10 times better than doing something, in case they have alert, in case they're faking the site and there's 2 people, or even just taking control of like if you're on split and let's say you take heaven, so that way you can hear if they run garage, you can hear if they're coming water or bottom mid, and you're still on the site. I mean, you could get pinched, but you're faster rotate if they do commit to the other site that they're hitting, but you're also first to get info and to call over a rotate if they decide to hit your site instead. If you're playing someone like Chamber who can get a pick and get out, that is phenomenal, and you can slow them down. And also, if you're playing someone, who has util like Trips, it slows them down and buys time for you to get help. I think people just over rotate and they react too slow to site hits. They don't throw their util to slow down, or sometimes they don't. Sometimes throwing your util, slowing them down, and just surviving as long as you can will win you the round, because they're gonna have to spend more resources. Your teammates are gonna have time to get over and help trade you and get kills, maybe watch your cross while you're ratting in like a corner trying to survive. They'll shoot util for you. So that's another thing, shooting util. You should almost always shoot util. If your teammate's playing a close angle, it goes without saying that you should be shooting util so they don't get caught out. Oh, also, it is so criminally underutilized is pushing through main if nothing happens for like the first 30 seconds of a round. Even the first 15 seconds almost. There is using util to even get info if there's someone lurking main while there's presence on the other side of the map is so much more valuable than just like leaving or letting them get a timing and not knowing and just waiting for them to lurk out. Maybe you fall asleep on the angle like me. So sometimes it's better to get that info. And also, people don't understand like man advantage. If you're up a man, they don't trade back and you get a pick or something. Like this I think this is something that you can apply to every aspect of life, is you should only take risks when you're down. You shouldn't really make risky plays when you're up a man. You should just play safe, because more times out of 10 you're gonna win the round. I mean, obviously there's exceptions and more nuance, but you should not risk when you have advantage. You should only take risk when you're down and you're at disadvantage, because there's more to gain than there is to lose at that point. But yeah, like pushing through main, getting that info early so that your team knows that there's space that they can rotate and leave you, because they know they're not most likely going to hit that site. Even if it's just taking main and not pushing through all the way sometimes helps. Holding angles for teammates, you should always be doing. If your teammate's trying to cross and clear, close left or right, or cross over looking to the right or left of a site, you should be watching their far angle so they don't get shot in like the side of the head while they're clearing for you and your team. It's like another thing that goes without saying. Don't have like 3 or 4 people watching the same angle, unless they're like the only angle that they can come from and it's last alive or something. But there's also like a tech that's been working for me lately in the post plant if you're defending the bomb. So there's the metagame of coin flipping. Are they still on the spike or are they off the spike? And everyone knows how it goes. The person defusing is obviously at disadvantage, but there are times where the person defusing is pretty nuts and is a demon at holding an angle, and you having to check to see if they're defusing are at the disadvantage. Something that's kind of helped me is like this tapping tech, where like before they even start the game and tap, because they have to tap, that's like almost like a universal rule, they're going to tap for pressure. I've caught a lot of people off guard by swinging right before they tap, or they're going to tap. It's kind of a gamble, it's a risk, but it cuts out the entire metagame. Is just committing to a full swing when they go to look and tap the bomb, because they're going to have to look, or at least walk over and crouch, or like move their attention to the bomb to tap it real quick. They're most likely going to expect you to stay behind the angle or corner or wall you're at for a couple seconds before you actually jump spot or check. And there'll be some people will walk wide to try to catch you off looking at the bomb while they have an angle. For me, like just skipping that entirely and just committing to a full swing right before they tap, and this will only really work if they know where you're at, like kind of a chase down situation where they know you're planning and they know where you're heading to because they chased you or something. They'll be looking at the angle you're at, and they run over to the bomb to tap it, and I just swing like right before they tap. And I've several times have caught people with the diffuser in their hand, or still pulling out their gun and just shooting them in the head before they get there. So I mean, it's a gamble, it's a risk, it's an ego peak, but I found this little tap tech has been working for me. So that's another thing that you can add to your arsenal. It's pretty niche, so use it sparingly, but it has helped just to mix up the timing and ruin their timing a bit. Those are just like some things, if you don't already know, some things that could help you if you're in the lower elo. Just keep playing ranked. If you have a good tracker score, just keep playing ranked and you will rank up, as long as you're proactively playing and thinking about the game. Like me, I'm very mid. I'm not a very amazing player. I even struggle to carry my own weight sometimes, and I very rarely have a game where I am the one carrying. So the fact that I can get this high in solo queue, I'm pretty sure you can get pretty high as well if you have really insane mechanics like gunplay. In the matches I've been playing, it's very rare that I'll get some crazy plays or kills, at disadvantage or something. So very very rare I'll get a clip, so these are some things that help me like realize more of the dynamics of the game and what goes on in the background that people might not see at first, like face value. There's like a million other things I could yap about, but the video's already kind of long, so hope you guys enjoyed the video and maybe you'll learn something from my experience. And yeah, have a good night and peace out.